embarking on the Anne Frank exhibition. And so the first thing clearly to do with something as big as that was to pull together a team. June was very happy to join that team. She was always full of positive ideas, not the kind of thing, well, we could, couldn't we, but let's go for it. What emerged with this fine team around the table was an energy into which June put a very great deal. The result was we had visiting the cathedral exhibition more than 10,000 people, but that connected to a citywide network of activity, all sorts of events through that period. And a lot of that work was actually brought together by June's connecting and enthusiasm.
One of the other underpinning sets of values was authenticity and social justice. And it felt to me that City of Sanctuary really, really represented these two values. That I am personally very driven by social justice. Well, I'm driven by fairness. And a lot of our work has actually been about creating through the arts projects which give people a voice who would otherwise not get it or would not be heard. And City of Sanctuary was a really important part of that.
Small actions can have big results! On this historic occasion, when Bristol becomes Bristol City of Sanctuary!
There's a sense for me that the Pierian Centre was never good at ticking boxes, that we never conformed to the traditional way of being a charity or a business. In fact, being a community interest company is like a sort of bit between the two. And that because we didn't tick boxes and we didn't do things the way that everybody else does them, people found it very difficult to understand, funders found it very difficult to really get hold of what we were doing, and only in our closure is there a sense for me that people are beginning to go, yes, but without the Pierian Centre we won't have this or we won't have that. And it's always been there, but until it's under threat of being removed, it's very hard for people to go, but the Pierian Centre did all these things. And to put that in a funding bid was always impossibly difficult.
I am very saddened that the Pierian is closing at this time of all times, when public services, the NHS, local authorities, housing benefit, trebling of university tuition fees, all of these things in public life are under attack as never before. It's far worse than in the early 1980s during Thatcher, and we need something like the Pierian more now than ever before.
If you are part of an organisation like the Pierian Centre, one of the great strengths of which isn't so much to create content, but actually to value what other people do and to be a collaborative organisation that encourages and brings people together, then sometimes that's quite difficult to evaluate. And so things like the European Year for the Ending of Poverty, there are two ways you could represent that. You could say, well, this particular year enabled a very wide range of people to meet each other across Bristol, and that was evidenced on College Green with a huge exhibition called Portents. The remarkable thing about that was that it brought together offerings from a huge number of communities right across Bristol.
It's always been with a real sense of bringing people together with you, and I've just watched as the staff and the Pierian have really developed and flourished, as people who've been associated with you in any way have really had an opportunity to think about themselves and think about where they want to go, and I think that you've been a tremendous role model for so many people in doing that. And it's interesting watching the pictures along the way, all the cataloguing. I think that's where it started, and then gradually every year you've just sort of widened and widened and widened the horizons. So it was kind of pretty small to begin with, and then it's just widened out, so that now it's become such a huge, really political place in all sorts of ways, with a small p, but just a place where people can just feel really at home and at one with themselves and with others, and that sense of just community has been just a marvellous thing to have developed here, and it's been through unlimited generosity, and I, for one, just really want to thank you for that.
As I rode out one morning, as I wandered o'er yon moss, I had no thoughts of missing till a soldier did me cross. He kindly did invite me to take the flowing boat. He advanced, he advanced, me the money, 2 guineas and a crown.
Clearly that St. Paul's, will be poorer for, the absence of such an extraordinary place as the Pierian Centre. And Ju, no doubt, will go on and tackle some other tiger of a project. And one mustn't forget, I think, that she had an extraordinary team of dedicated people, and that all of them can take extraordinary pride in what they have achieved, even though, as with all extraordinary things, there has to be an end at some point, but I think it's an end for a beginning.
I actually know that there are already all sorts of things happening around the city that are happening in a different way because of the Pierian Centre's involvement. I don't think the Pierian Centre's ever actually done anything entirely on its own. We've always done it in partnership and collaboration and with other people. So although City of Sanctuary was an event that we managed, we could not have done it without the steering committee of all the people who are actually working day in, day out with refugee and asylum seekers. We simply energise things and bring people together and kind of like the touch paper, and then it goes poof. But I think that role is hugely important and should never be underestimated. Tonight, at the finale, we are symbolically closing the doors and everyone is going out into the garden. I hope some of you will be able to stay or come back for that. Each person will have a little light and a torch, and for me that is about inviting people to take whatever the Pierian Centre has meant and go and live it in another way amongst the people they know and love, amongst their workplaces, put on an event that actually they think is important to raise awareness, to give people voice. So while I know that the closing of the physical building has an impact, it is going to live on.
what the Pierian has done. Who is going to stand where the Pierian has stood? Who is going to be all that the Pierian has been? Make justice a reality for all. Make freedom a reality for all. Make equality a reality for all. Make hope a reality for all. Parting the waters, in a light so clear, ending the journey, realizing the time, inspiration, another way, new faces call. This is Pierian. We are Pierian. We have tasted the spring. We have drunk deeply. The Pierian. The light is now within. The doors close. A new world beckons.